everyone, it's Miss Rossi. Today we are going to finish our weavings from last week. What you'll be needing today is your loom that we started weaving on last time, all of our different colored yarns, and a scissor. If you'd like to incorporate any other kinds of materials into your weaving, like ribbons or beads, you can also take things like that from your house to use. So last week we wrapped our loom and we also started weaving with our different colored yarns. I ended with this orange string. It is now too short, so I'm going to grab another color that I can tie on here. I'm going to pull out a blue string. I am going to tie these together. So last week we tied our strings together by holding the ends so they are lined up, wrapping it around 2 fingers, opening our fingers up, and tucking these tails into that loop that we made, and then pulling it nice and tight. Once you have your knot on there, you can grab your scissor and cut off those extra tail pieces from the end. I'm making sure to push my weaving up so it is nice and tight against the top of my board, and I can just continue on with my new blue string that I tied to my orange string. So I'm going to pick up where I left off. So I see my orange string is going over my white string. So with my blue one, I'm going to start by going under, then over, under, over, and we're repeating that over, under pattern all the way back and forth. And as I'm doing this, I'm going to see that my pattern in this row with my blue string is going to be the opposite of my pattern with the orange string. So everywhere I went over, now I'm going under, and everywhere I went under, I'm also going over. I'm going to pull that nice and tight all the way through. You might have to help it a little bit because sometimes the knot likes to get stuck. There we go. And I am going to continue weaving until I run out of my blue string and I switch colors again. Now you can decide maybe you only want 1 row of one color. So maybe once I get 1 row of blue on here, I am going to stop and switch to another color, or you can keep going until your string runs out. It is up to you. I am going to keep going until I have a full section of blue string here, and then I will pick another color to continue on with. Now that my blue end has gotten pretty short, I'm going to pick another color to change over to. I think I'm going to pick some green. So now that I have the next color that I want to use, I have my yarn so they are lined up on both ends. I am tying them into a knot by wrapping it around 2 fingers, opening my fingers up so I have a nice big loop, tucking those tails inside, pulling it nice and tightly, cutting off the extra bits, and then continuing on with my weaving. Now this time, instead of going all the way across, I am going to bring my color halfway across my board. Now each time you are weaving, you do not have to keep going back and forth so you have big rectangular bands. You can make some square bands and some other shapes by only weaving on a certain part of your board at a time. So I'm going to take this all the way across so I can finish off that last section of blue. And then I am going to only go to that middle string with my green. So I'm going to weave like normal, but I am going to stop once I hit this middle, I guess that's kind of the middle, close enough to the middle string. And now I am going to loop back and go back in the opposite directions. So now I'll get a nice little square of green, and I can put another color next to it on this side. Now that I have a nice long tail here, I am going to stop with my little green square that I made. I did not pull this one as tight so it can fill in the gaps nicely. You'll notice that I have left my knots sticking up for right now, and I will tuck those behind my weaving later on and fix that, so you don't have to worry about your knots if they are poking through. I think I want to grab some yellow next. And with my yellow, I am just going to fill in this gap that I have where my green stopped. So I'm going to not tie these strings together yet. I am just going to work to fill in this section by starting on this end. I can see my blue went under, so I'm starting over, under, over, under. And I'm going to pull it mostly through, just leaving a little tail hanging off there. And now you can decide if you want to end on this last white string before we hit our green and get a gap in between both of your colors, or if you want them to be connected, you can weave into this green section by just kind of scooting that yarn down so it's out of your way, and then pulling your other color in. And they can kind of share that middle section there. Then I'm just going to go back the opposite way, tuck that up, and continue on. So I'm going to go to the next row, scoot some of that green yarn down a little bit, tuck my yellow string under there, and then you can smush it back together. And I'm just going to keep doing this until this whole section meets my green section. This is where I'm going to stop for today. I was able to continue weaving all the way to the bottom of my board. There is a gap left because it is getting it too tight where the white strings are for me to keep feeding the yarn back through, but you can go as far down as you want. You do want to leave a little bit of extra space of our white string at the bottom to make it easier next week when we take our weavings off of our loom. So next week we are going to work on hiding all of our little knots and tying up our loose ends, as well as taking our weaving off of our cardboard. So you can hold on to your weaving until next week. You can save your yarn for another project that you can do with it in the future, and throw out all of your little scraps. See you guys next time. Bye!